welcome to Combat Spuds, the weekly combat sports roundup brought to you by the Midweek Mashed Tattie Sportscast. My name's Mick, and as always, I'm joined by Harvey and Paul. How's it going, lads?
Brilliant, man. How are you doing?
Madly!
Harvey coming at us live for fucking Nedland.
Nah, I'm good, bud. Thanks.
That's just Muttley. Dick Dastardly's dog in the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man.
Oh, jeez. Oh, there he goes.
There we go. We're ready. So, before I get any further, I'll preface this with, although I will try my best to clean up the audio where possible, my throat is done for. It's like Junkie's carpet this week, so there might be a bit of coughing and Muttley laughing going on, but we'll do our best here. We'll do our best. Well, I'll do my best anyway. I don't know.
I done the Wacky Races music. Will be fine, man. Folk will think I've done the design. We'll be fine.
Anyway, well, I think that not right.
Stop the pigeon. You're thinking. You're thinking of stop.
That's the one.
Somebody, Mudley, catch that pigeon.
Oh Christ, that was my job when I was young. Anyway,
it was the business. Anyway,
let's get it on. We're going to kick off this week with a bit of news. We're kicking off the news with a bit of boxing. So, last night we had Savannah Marshall defending her WBO title. Is WBO middleweight title against Femke
Hermans, I believe it is.
Femke Hermans, that's it.
German, by any chance?
Belgian,
ah.
The fight itself, decent fight. Savannah Marshall won by knockout in the third round. Pretty decent left out. It was a pretty run of the mill performance for Savannah. It was a good performance. The reason it's noteworthy is because it leads us into potentially the biggest year in women's boxing history.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of this month, we have headline in Madison Square Garden, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano.
Mm-hmm.
Katie Taylor's been utterly dominant as the undisputed champ at lightweight, I think. Amanda Serrano is seemingly the only person that could potentially topple her at that weight. And then at middleweight, we have Claressa Shields as the undisputed three-weight champion, only boxer, male or female, to be undisputed in two different weight divisions in the four-belt era. Two-time Olympic champion, utterly dominant. The only thing stopping her for being the GOAT, as she likes to call herself, other than the fact that Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano are both immense at the lower weight, is Savannah Marshall, who holds a victory over Claressa, the only person to beat Claressa Shields in boxing. She beat her in 2012 in the Amateur Worlds in a qualifier. So it was a unanimous points decision. So she didn't stop her, but she's the only person to beat Claressa Shields in boxing. She's obviously since then she's picked up a decision loss in MMA, but I think to her that's MMA is like a game. It's something she does to keep herself interested. She's not got much of an ego, I don't think, when it comes to MMA, but in boxing it's everything. So
she knows what it is, man.
12-0 as a pro, but she's got that one blemish in her amateur career. She's 70 odd fights, I think, as an amateur, and Savannah Marshall was able to beat her. So the big story is Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano is a phenomenal fight. Not only is it a phenomenal fight, it's crowning, well, there already is an undisputed champion, but it's for all the marbles basically. And on top of that, it's also headlining Madison Square Garden for the first time for a female fight, which is amazing. It's great for the female side of the sport. And then from there, late June or July, they're looking at doing Savannah Marshall versus Claressa Shields grudge match for all the marbles at middleweight.
Yep.
Wow.
So two of the greatest fights potentially, and two of the most meaningful fights in women's boxing history, both potentially happening within 3 months of one another.
Yep.
So big sort of summer, big year ahead. The early talk is potentially UK for the Marshall and Clarissa Shields fight. But that's mostly because Savannah Marshall doesn't trust the judges to get it right if it goes to a decision, if it's in America. However, Clarissa Shields has got all the belts. Well, bar one. So she's probably got a lot of the sort of bargaining chips. So if she wants it in America and pushes for that, they might go that way. Personally, assuming Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano have a great night at the end of the month, I would like to see another Madison Square Garden headliner, because as much as the women's side of the sport is moving forward, it's getting more attention for the media, etc., the chances of having another fight the calibre of this that's likely or has the potential to headline Madison Square Garden within the next couple of years is slim, unless like Kate Taylor and Amanda Serrano goes to like a kind of semi-controversial decision and they want to rematch and it's there again kind of thing. So I would love to see the promoters capitalise on it and go big for this fight as well. Whether the two of them have got the following to do it, I don't know.
Do you think there's a possibility of a stadium crowd in the UK? Being that it's for everything, and obviously, I mean, there's a bit getting into this with Savannah Marshall turned up at Clarissa Shields' last fight, kind of post-fight, and they kind of got in about it. I noticed that Clarissa Shields also did that last night.
Yes.
She
She was sitting ringside for the fight. She came in ring. So they've been going back and forth.
They're on the cell media, certainly, aren't they?
And in the media since 2012-13. They've always been at one another. They haven't got on since that original fight in the amateurs. And it's really blew up in the last 4 or 5 years because they've both been making waves since 2017, I want to say. They both turned pro.
Yeah.
So it's just been building and building.
Does it have that kind of feel that where they can go to a stadium? Do you think it needs to just be this? Needs to be another big arena show as opposed to obviously a stadium show? You're talking upwards of 30,000.
I don't think it's there unless they pair it with something else. But the problem with pairing it with something else is you need to be really careful what you pair it with, because you don't want to overshadow it.
You're worried about the shine of it being taken away if it's paired with like a male kind of big match.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you look at like some of the rising British stars, right? So like Eubanks Jr., Ben Jr., put one of them in the card as the co-main event. You know what I mean? There's a big British name on there for the male side. You probably could look at selling out an arena, but the media the way they are, it might take the shine off of the main event.
So they're going to potentially go towards the male fight because it's arguably the bigger names, despite the fact that this is the
obviously
fight.
I'm the wrong gender to have the meaningful opinion here, but I would like to see, if no an all female card, an all female main card. And I would rather that, and let's say it has to be in like a 5,000 seat arena as opposed to 20,000 stadium or whatever the numbers were going to be. I would rather see the smaller place and go all women and really put that side of the sport on the map.
I suppose if you film it right and it's a smaller venue and it's very noisy in an arena where it's got a roof over the top, it arguably does a lot better good than it, like for the spectacle. Like you can sell that in the clips.
Savannah Marshall does have a big following in Newcastle. So the fight last night was in Newcastle.
Aye.
They go nuts for her. But I don't know how well that transfers. And then obviously the fact that Clarissa Shields is American, I don't know what the travelling support would be like. So I just don't know. And then there's also the thing, does Savannah Marshall transfer to an American audience? I don't know.
You've got Northern English, very thick Northern English accent, I notice as well there. Like,
the thing is, I think they'll be able to sell more. They'll be able, sell more tickets in America than they will in the UK. For
Aye,
obvious
potentially
reasons.
even in an arena into like over there.
Yeah.
Aye.
I think if they do it right and they promote off the back of the Taylor and Serrano fight, then it has potential to be huge and sell out wherever they want to go. But the problem is it's boxing, and there's so many hats in the ring here. There's so many people that need to tick boxes to get the thing done. They might know you by the time Taylor and Serrano happens. They might not be anywhere near making this fight a done deal.
Aye, that's also true.
You know what I mean?
True.
It could be into May, before the fight's signed. That they might be looking at like sort of 6 to 9 weeks. If they're keen on doing like end of June, they might be looking at quite a short time to promote it. So, we'll have to wait and see it. I don't know what to do. But nonetheless, I mean, just to go back to it, the headline statement is potentially the biggest year in women's boxing, women's professional boxing.
There's certainly a lot riding on in the next few months for the fact of raising the profile. I mean, obviously women have a lot of success in the UFC. There's no reason why it shouldn't be like that in boxing. So fingers crossed, everybody kind of plays fair here and we get that very soon.
Yeah. So, from one first, I suppose, talking about the Madison Square Garden thing, certainly, to another, the UFC have interestingly announced that they're going to take their UFC 275 pay-per-view to Singapore. One AFC territory.
Oh no! Right, okay, hold on.
They're going to do it in the National Stadium thing or whatever, National Arena, Singapore National Arena, something like that. But a lot of One AFC shows are in there. This is very interesting. Now, I don't know if Dana White and UFC have seen how well they're doing over there and thought that's a market we need to tap into, or if they're thinking, let's go over here and start making some relationships so that if the time comes, they're in a position to maybe come in and try and buy out One FC, or I don't know, maybe it's not as nefarious as that. Maybe they're thinking down the line they want to cross promote or something. Probably no, but maybe. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I find it very interesting.
The answer is somewhere in between the two, isn't it?
Very interesting, yes, I would say. The thing you were saying there, Michael, if they try to build relationships and that with One FC and maybe later down the line take over or whatever, I don't think that the owner of One FC One Championship will sell that company. If you've watched not a contender. What's it called again? Apprentice thing, aye. You can see how much that company means to him, man, and what he's tried to build and what he's trying to build it and what he has built to a certain degree. I think the only way that he sells that is if he's in real financial trouble and he has to. I don't think he will ever sell that. So I don't know. It's very interesting. It's like he's getting there, stepping on the toes.
Booking their territory, if you will.
One Championship have made big waves in Asia.
Yep.
By the way, like they're why. And obviously they're trying to get over into this side of the world as well. So they have a few deals, but they have most of everything on YouTube, so that people can just watch it, you know. And they put it's So One FC is, and that's one of the reasons why they've done that. The show as well, and put it on Netflix, so that people, be interested in one championship, to try and grow the following on this side of the world, which I could see happening actually if more people knew about it and would watch it more. I think it could gain a lot of traction in this side of the world, especially because it's different as well.
Switching us back to on topic slightly, so it's UFC 275. It's going to be a pay-per-view, which in itself is interesting because it's very rare that pay-per-views happen outside of North America. It's quite a rare occurrence, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. It's going to be June 11th at the Singapore Indoor Stadium in Klang, Singapore. So I don't know how they'll work it time-wise.
I was just going to ask that question.
That's the reason that they, generally speaking, don't have their pay-per-views outside of North America, because of the time zone issue. Their biggest pay-per-view market is America, is North America.
Yeah.
So they want to suit them. So I don't know what they'll do here. They have in the past run pay-per-views in other countries and done them at a sort of, like Australia's a great example. They've done pay-per-views in Australia and they'll do them at a sort of in-between time. So it's no quite sort of prime time in Australia, but it's also no prime time in America either. They just sort of try and split the difference.
About both.
So, I don't know.
Incidentally, jumping straight to that pay-per-view, who wins that main event fight for you between Glover Teixeira and Yuri Pro? I'm going to take a stab at this. Really, Yuri Prochaska? Czechoslovakian fella.
I believe it's like Pruashka. Something along the lines. Aye, it's a bit. There's letters in there that just blend together.
It's not an easy one to get. Check with the pronunciations. But
just very briefly before I answer. So worth noting they are going big here. They're doing a double headliner. Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochaska in the main event for the light heavyweight title, and they're also doing Valentina Shevchenko returning to defend against Taylor Santos for the bantamweight title, for the flyweight title for the women. So they're going big here. There must be a reason. There's something. But anyway, back to the question. For me, Yuri takes it. Glover Teixeira, wily veteran, very, very good. I'm so happy that he finally won the title. But Yuri Prochaska, however we're saying it, he's one of the sort of new breed. He's a guy that's been training for a long time across the board. He's very skilled, he's very fast, he's very explosive. Glover has his chances. He's a great grappler. He's wily veteran. He's gritty. He's tough. He hits bloody hard. He can knock you out. But for me, Yuri takes it. Probably TKO.
I'm looking forward to that, by the way. That'll be awesome when that comes.
And the other fight, like Taylor Santos, she's very good, but it's Shevchenko, so aye, it's hard to look past Shevchenko.
It's a foregone conclusion almost.
Oh dear. So since you're all about the questions, Paul, you fancy tuning up the band and giving us some Burning Desire?
Oh. Oh yes, the Burning Desire indeed this week, my man. So again, the question is more of a theoretical one. Obviously, last time I asked if you were a fighter in the UFC or Bellator or whatever, what kind of skill set would you prefer? That was obviously last time. This week, my question, however, puts you in a scenario again, lads. You're a parent, and your Wayne is, and I've wrote it down in this exact order. Your wee one is mad into the fighting and is showing that they have a God-given talent for it. Like, we're talking like special gifts here. Like you can see that this kid is going to be an incredible fighter across some form of combat sport. As a parent, what are you getting them into, him or her? Boxing, MMA, kickboxing, judo, and why would you do this?
Do we have an age range?
I don't know. Go with any age, mate. Really, it's a very open-ended question. Be interesting if you've got different answers for boys and girls, though. I think there probably is different answers for boys and girls.
I've got different answers for different age brackets.
Right, okay. Right, well, I'll tell you what. You tell me what you think for different age brackets. I'm happy with that, mate.
Right, so for me, the younger they are, the more I lean towards grappling.
Right, okay.
You could go traditional martial art, you could go karate, taekwondo, something like that, where you can trust that they're not going to be taking a ton of punishment. But the last thing you want is a young kid getting head strikes. No need for it.
Okay,
let their brain develop. Most places, most gyms, most coaches, if they're starting to do kind of amateur fights, if it was a striking based sort of martial art, generally speaking, there's going to be rule sets and stuff in place that prevent them taking a ton of damage, headshots and stuff. But why even risk it? You know what I mean? there's no point in even like potentially being in a position where the coach just decides one day that they're going to do some sparring or something like that, and maybe you've just roped away and off and you're not there for that session, so you can't say, what you doing, you clown? You know what I mean? 8-year-olds don't need to be sparring with head strikes, what's happening? So just to avoid that potential, for me, the younger they are, I look at grappling, and I think grappling's a great base as long as for any age, as long as you're interested in it, because especially if you look at the likes of jiu-jitsu, judo as well to a degree, there's a lot going on mentally, right? So with any kind of traditional martial art, there's all the philosophy behind it, there's the different sort of skills that it teaches you in terms of like having respect for your opponent and always being mindful of what's happening around about you, and the self-defense aspects of it and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of benefits to go with a traditional martial art before progressing. You know what I mean? If they have true athletic potential and you think they maybe want to be a professional fighter, let's say, it makes a lot of sense to do a few years in a traditional martial art first to get that solid base behind you. Obviously, if you're growing up like in America, then you might lean towards wrestling just because it's very accessible. Being in Scotland and UK, for me, I lean towards the grappling, as I say, so probably jiu-jitsu or judo would be my kind of first two choices, with then like the likes of karate and taekwondo as kind of backups. My approach would be to, as I might do with my wee girl Malia, like when she gets older, if she has the interest, I'll take her along and I'll let her do some classes. We've spoken actually about taking her to taekwondo, but it's a story for another day. I'd happily take her along, let her do a few lessons and see if she's interested. If she's into it, cool, go with it. If she's no, we can try something else, you know what I mean? I don't think, like, you get, especially when there's a martial art in the family, like if a guy is like a black belt in, let's say, karate, and he's an instructor, chances are his kids, like it or lump it, up until a certain point, they're going to do some karate. And you get that with other sports as well. If the parent's a coach, the Wayne's probably going to follow in their footsteps. You know what I mean?
They're going to follow.
So my approach would be, the younger they are, the more I lean towards grappling. Cool. It's a great base for many reasons, and it avoids unnecessary brain trauma, basically. For me, I don't want them anywhere near that sort of thing until they're 14, 15 at least. But there's no reason they can't start being introduced to striking martial arts by the time they're sort of 10, 12. You just need to be careful with who's coaching them and what they're doing.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Harvey, have you any thoughts on this yourself, my man? What do you think? What's your kind of take?
My take is let them try everything, whichever one they like. Okay. If they don't, they don't. I'm not forcing anything on them.
So open-ended. Love it, lads. I like that we both answered that.
Sorry, what was the question? Because the question was, I see greatness in them, right?
Aye, so what would you try towards?
Aye.
So Michael's went with the safeguarding and probably the best answer as far as a parent goes.
Aye. So
avoid striking as a young kid.
Mm-hmm. Aye, which is that's a good answer as well. Like, my thing is, like, I take them and let them try everything. If they liked it, they liked it. If they didn't, they didn't. I wouldn't try and force them to do anything. Do you know what I mean? That's what I can say on it.
Aye.
I could say which one I would prefer. I'd prefer them to do like Muay Thai, or you know what I mean? Muay Thai, BJJ. That would be my two that I would say that I would like them to do. But at the end of the day, it's not what I like.
Aye, no, that's nice. I like the way that you're thinking there, where you're not making it about yourself. I think I wonder as well though. See if your kid's going to have a career like as a professional fighter, would you prefer that to be in boxing or in MMA or
MMA? 100% MMA.
Nah, you'd say MMA all day, especially if it's a girl, by the way. As opposed to a boy.
I don't think that factors in for me. I mean, I say that I maybe, you know, if I was faced with the reality rather than the hypothetical, maybe I would have a different opinion. But in theory at least, and obviously from the perspective of having a girl already, just not faced with the conundrum of she's moaning that she wants to go and do some Thai boxing fights or something. But in theory, like, that's irrelevant. I would have no issue with doing that if that's what she wants to do, but I would urge her to avoid boxing. No training. I think boxing training's fantastic. I think there's more class, respected, experienced boxing coaches out there than there is some of the other martial arts and stuff, just because of what it is and how popular it is. There's more choice for gyms and stuff, but I wouldn't want my kid spending years getting punched in the head without the option of doing something else. I think if they go the route of the likes of MMA, or maybe they want to do a bit of kickboxing, Thai boxing, that sort of thing, just because there's other options with the, you're introducing other strikes like kicks and stuff, and you can strike to other parts of the body, just statistically speaking, reduces the number of head strikes. And over the years that I've spent watching combat sports and also seeing sort of science develop through research that's been done in other sports like the NFL and stuff, with the work in CTE and that, I'm very conscious of underlying brain trauma. So that would, as much as I want my wee girl to grow up with the ability to defend herself when she needs to, and I want her to be sort of happy and feel satisfied in whatever it is she wants to do. If that's an athletic thing, if that's a combat sport, cool, I'm behind her. But I'm going to do my best to keep her away from as much head trauma as possible.
Good answer, mate. Good answer.
No. I don't the only reason I think that anybody would be going into boxing these days is purely for money, man. That's all it is these days. There's nothing.
That's a sad thing, isn't it?
That's why I suggest
to me,
there's a difference between boys and girls. If your daughter goes into boxing, she's not going to make anywhere near as much as a man doing it.
I suppose you have to consider that, the business side of things.
To me, there's more honour in mixed martial arts, or martial arts, other than boxing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Boxing is just a bit. I don't know. These days, boxing is just there's too much politics in it. I mean, obviously, there's politics in everything these days, but and then the head trauma as well, as you were alluding to, Michael. Like, you can see from boxers who have boxed all their life, you can see there's damage there. Like, you know what I mean? Look, any boxer who's over 60, look at them. You can't tell me that there's nothing wrong with them. Like, just because they haven't done scans and stuff like that to prove it, you can see it. Like, you know what I mean? MMA is not quite like that. Because obviously I have a variety of different strikes that you can do with. I
want to actually just interject a wee bit there just quickly, because I'm conscious that I might be torn into boxing just a wee bit there. There will absolutely be stories that will come out in years to come about MMA fighters that have serious problems with, whether it's CTE, whether it's early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, stuff like that. There will be those outliers, but the point I want to make is that just when you look at the statistics of the sports, because of where the strikes land on the body and the options that are available in the style of fighting, statistically speaking, speaking of nobody want to speak, statistically speaking, in MMA you take less head strikes, so go marginally safer.
It's a worrying sport, boxing, with the likes of head trauma and that. I mean, just to bring up head trauma in boxing, look at your man Danny Williams still fighting at bloody 48. It just seems to be the Wild West with boxing.
There's a lot of
control.
Sorry, I'm under. There's a lot of cautionary tales out there.
He's certainly one of them, man. 48 and he's getting knocked about in a wee gym in Germany, like, and he was a world championship fighter in his heyday, and arguably should be long retired. Like, he's still being allowed to do that. Like,
Yeah.
Aye.
The other reason why, sorry, just to go back to the other reason why I would want my child to go, like, if they were to be a world champion or a professional in this way, I'd like it to be in MMA. I think MMA is one of the most challenging sports out there, like combat sports out there, and to be the champion of any MMA championship is quite a feat.
Like it's talked about the mentality that wrestling sort of gives to kids growing up in America or any other country that has wrestling programs through their schools and stuff. The hard work and the determination that sort of sport fosters, that's something that you get in MMA as well. You can't, like in any combat sport, you have to train hard to be the best, obviously, but to be the best in MMA, you need to be like top sort of percent. Well, we could be talking about different levels, but you know what I mean, you need to be unbelievably fit and you need to have skills across so many sort of facets of combat sports. It takes a lot of dedication and determination to take the time to learn the skills, but also to put yourself through the training required to get your fitness and your mental state to where it needs to be successful. So that's something worth noting. Right, thank you as always for that, Paul.
Problem, lads.
Shall we look ahead to what is coming up? Obviously there has been, I don't think I've actually said yet, there's been no major promotions in MMA this week. There's been very little happening in combat sports altogether because it's like this week of the year is like wrestling week, pro wrestling week, because of WrestleMania weekend. Other pro wrestling promotions firing cards throughout the week as well. You get the WrestleCon convention on and all that sort of stuff. So it's big week in pro wrestling. So it means that then combat sports promotions sort of take the week off because it muddies the waters in terms of pay-per-views and whatever else. So nothing on in terms of UFC, Bellator, One, etc. But we've got a couple of things to look forward to next week. The first thing is we've got boxing. We've got an interesting fight next week. On the 9th of April, we have Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, versus Ryotomurata. It's happening in Japan, in the Saitama Super Arena. It is for the IBF, IBO, WBA middleweight titles. Decent fight, like I'd imagine it'll be a good fight. It's a hard fight for Triple G. Well, I suppose it's a hard fight for Murata if you're a fan of him. But the most interesting thing about this for me is that there's a deal pretty much in place. I don't know what state the contracts are at, but there's, for the most part, it would seem there's a deal in place with Triple G to have his trilogy fight against Canelo Alvarez in September.
Oh yeah.
However, if Triple G gets beat here, that fight goes away. So it's like an interesting sort of pressure on Triple G to do well here, make sure he gets that big fight. As through his fights with Canelo, his kind of career's maybe taking a bit of a dip, you could argue. He's not quite looked at as the sort of immovable object that he once was. So, but I mean, the trilogy fight's still big money. So he'll absolutely know what to lose that opportunity. Obviously, Canelo's looking at moving up a weight class. He's in talks to move up to light heavyweight, I want to say. I'm not sure what the state of those negotiations are. I don't know if that's happening or not. But aye, it'll be interesting next week to see what kind of shape Triple G's in. Murata's going to be a tough out for him, so aye, if he gets past him in sort of good standing, then it'll be sort of full march towards September trilogy fight with Canelo.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Obviously, for the sake of the spectacle, I hope we get there. A third fight between
I
these
was
two
just
guys.
going to say, I kind of like to see it, but then it's like it's pretty much like
I know what's
how I
probably
feel.
going to happen.
Aye, it's like with every Canelo fight, it's like I want to see it, but I think I know how it's got to work out. You know what I mean? But he's the thing that doesn't get old with me with Canelo is his movement is sublime. Like his head movement, and oh my god, it really is a thing of beauty. The way he just like ducks and dodges.
He operates at a different frequency for other humans. When he's in the ring, it's like there's a few guys have had it across the combat sports. You know, like Anderson Silva's one that easily comes to mind. It's like they enter the matrix. Everybody else is in 60 hertz, but they're in 62 or something. Like they're just that wee bit faster. They see everything before it happens. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you go on YouTube and just put type in Canelo head movement training and just watch that, and usually they'll have a video that precedes that, or even in the same video, that you see him doing the head movement training, and then it transitions into the fight, and it shows you like same movement when somebody's trying to punch him and how he's evading it just by practicing that movement. He's the best to do it, man. Honestly, brilliant. That's one of the main reasons why he wins all his fights, pretty much. Like, he's a brilliant boxer.
Actually,
I still like to see the fight.
For what it's worth, as much as I maybe talk doing boxing as an option for anybody that wants to pursue a combat sport, although obviously I did say gyms, coaches, there's a lot of good ones out there. It is a worthwhile sort of hobby and stuff. If that is your dream to pursue boxing, look at guys like Canelo and Floyd Mayweather. Like them or love them. Love them or hate them. Like them or love them or hate them. That's the style you want to emulate. You know what I mean? You want to be fantastic in defence. You want to have great footwork. And Lomachenko as well. You want to have great footwork. No matter your size, weight class and gender and anything else, the must-haves are footwork, defensive abilities, like your ability to dodge punches but to parry them and stuff as well, and your sort of knowledge and ability to read what's coming, and counter-striking, timing. You know what I mean? That's the biggest things that you want to have. You don't want to be a warrior. You don't want to be defending punches with your chin just to show how hard you are. You know what I mean? There's no need for it, no sense in it. Or you're doing shortening your career, hurting your state of life towards the end. You know what I mean?
I mean, as much as great as Muhammad Ali was, that was one of his flaws, man. He was just...
He's a very interesting case because he was so good at movement, head movement, footwork. He was fast.
He would dance around him and then he'd be like, just punch me. I'll show you I can take a punch.
Especially in the earlier stages of his career. So often he would just stand there and be like he would dance round about them to show off, and then he would have that moment of, right, there's the line, let's go, hit me.
I know. I don't know, man. I mean, the fans loved it. I guess I think the other thing is as well, if you're just standing there and you just like eat a couple of punches and just looking at the next guy, like if I'm the one throwing them punches and somebody's just looking at me after, I'm like, fuck, I've just smashed him 3 times in the face and nothing's happened to him.
There's the psychology. I mean, to go back, to the well again, Anderson Silva, again, he was a fan of Muhammad Ali, he was a fan of Roy Jones Jr. He would, as much as he had that ability to enter the matrix, he would also toe the line. He would take punches to get in the mind of the opponent, and then once he sees that panic in their eye, that's when he attacks. But anyway, we're in the weeds as usual.
Aye.
So April 9th we've got Triple G fighting. That was the that was what really Reed said.
That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold Mick said so.
So also on the Saturday night on April 9th we have UFC 273, and we've got a couple of cracking fights at the top of the card. we've got in the co-main event the anticipated rematch between Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. In the main event, we've got Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung. So we've got some cracking fights up top, and it's a pretty solid card right through. I'm going to run through it very quickly, and then we'll talk about whatever he's want to talk about. So we've got Gavin Tucker versus Pat Sabatini. We have Piera Rodriguez versus Kay Hansen. We've got Vincetti, I don't know. There's no many letters in it, but they pronounce it funny. We'll call him Vince. Vince Pichel versus Mark Madsen. Julio Arce. Yes, Arce, but with a C, versus Daniel Santos. We have, I'll say it because I usually say it. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Mickey, it's Mickey Gall versus Mike Mallet. The return of Jorginho Rosenstruck,
Yes.
who should really be a Street Fighter character with that bloody name, versus Marcin Tybura. So that's a good fight. You got to love a heavyweight banger. Anthony Hernandez versus Josh Framed. Ian Gary versus I'm sorry, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but that's such a boring name.
No, it's the heavyweight banger that got me.
Oh, I didn't even realise you were away, man.
Gotta love a heavyweight banger.
I was going to say something.
Aye. Pause, hold.
I'm waiting 15, I'm sorry, man.
You just roll about in the flare, I'm going to continue.
Sorry, man.
So, Ian Gary.
It is a good fight card, sorry.
Ian Gary versus Darian Weeks. Aspen Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. And then on the main card we have Alexei Olenek, the secret Russian, versus Jared Vandera. Mackenzie Dern versus Tisha Torres. Gilbert Burns versus Kamzat Chimaev returning. Oh yeah. And then, as mentioned, the co-main event, Aljamain Sterling versus Peter Yan, and main event, Alexander Volkanovski and Chan Sung Jung. And breathe.
It is indeed a very good card.
It is. Quite
Peter Yan. I don't know why I just did it. I just did it. Oh, this is why we need to video this shit.
Harvey's doing ninja moves for
those
listening. Oh god.
Oh man.
Ian Gary, Michael.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Ian Gary.
Talk to me about Ian Gary.
His
Is
first
this
name's
your
Ian.
man from Ireland?
First name's Ian, surname's Gary.
That's also true, yes. Is this the guy that there's a wee bit of hype about, am I right in saying?
Honestly, I don't know.
Oh shit. This may be cut.
Paul's like,
We need to cut this bit because I can't fuck with it. Well, his name's his fucking name's the future. He's Irish. You're right enough.
Aaron Gary.
How ironic is that, right? His fight name is the future, and I know nothing about him. So apparently, the future hasn't happened yet.
Aye, so you tell me in a couple of years' time.
Aye.
Oh yeah, he's
So,
Paul, I was expecting you to get into a big, huge spiel.
You might be ahead of the curve here, Paul. You might have picked up something. So let's see. Well, he was a welterweight. I was going to say I thought he was welterweight. So he's a 6'3" welterweight. So he's a lanky lad apparently. Reach 74, so he's not got a massive reach. Do we see who's he fought?
Is it one UFC fight I remember?
He's a Cage Warriors guy. Of course he is.
Cage Warriors, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, he comes for a good crowd then.
He's a welterweight, right?
Ackman, Jack Grant. Some good wins. Like he's on a good run.
Mm-hmm.
A really good run.
I mean, his pro MMA record is 8-0, is it no?
Mm-hmm.
That's
his professional.
That's why I asked, like, because I knew I'd heard about this boy before when he won in the UFC. He was kind of seen as a potential star of the future.
So
due to the fact that he's also another young Irish fella. Like
he has one previous fight in the UFC. He was on the 268 pay-per-view. He won his fight in the first round. With the counter right TKO, looks it.
That was Usman and Covington.
Yes, aye. That was Usman Covington 2 pay-per-view. That was against Jordan Williams. Don't know if I said that or not. So, aye. Well, there you go. Paul might have just picked up the next big star. Oh, that's all right. As much as I'm a massive fan and I know more than most, I don't know everything. So I'm not ashamed to admit when I've not heard of somebody. If I've not heard about them, I've not heard about them. It would be worse if I had heard about them and for whatever reason just was like meh and didn't bother paying attention to them or something like that. Then I would be a dick. But I've genuinely not heard of the guy before. And I mean, he's again, no offence to the lad, but Ian Gary, like you wouldn't use that as like a wrestler or whatever. You know what I mean, like or an actor. If you're picking your name, it's a wee bit bland. So
stuck with that,
if I've heard that name in the background, it's probably not going to stick in my brain. I'll be honest. If you've got a mad name that's like Rosenstruck, then I'm going to remember it. Anyway, Darian Weeks is good, so that's a good test for him. Probably going to be a striking affair looking at Gary's previous efforts and going by Darian Weeks. So, aye, that will be interesting. I'm definitely going to have my eyes on that fight now. I'll need to come back and talk about that one next week.
So should he change his name by Deadpool? What should he change it to?
Gary Ian.
Yeah. Oh,
God.
Oh, God.
I don't know. I've not got an answer.
You'll have killed you here, man.
Oh, God. Gary. There you go. That would be memorable.
Gary.
I'm just thinking I'm thinking of your own show.
Only Frozen Horses?
No. The Netflix animated one.
Gary Goodspeed.
Bloody Paradise PD.
No, the one in space.
No.
Final Space.
The one in space. Oh, Final Space. Ooh. Aye, that's what's going through my head. I'm just hearing the wee robot going, Gary.
Gary.
Get off my face,
certain parts of the world they don't pronounce Gary as Gary. They pronounce it Gary.
What?
Gary. Mm-hmm.
Gary?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gary.
Alright. Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. I suppose that's like there's bits of America they don't say, or I don't know if it might be all America, they don't say Craig, they say Craig, innit?
Aye. Caribbean as well. Craig.
Is it?
Craig. Fuck, I don't know. I'll just say Craig.
God knows. Well, we've reached a new low in this podcast. We're discussing names.
Talking names.
So what do we think of Jeffrey? Oh, right. Moving on.
Jeff Hardy, huh? Love him.
Right, let's take a quick look at the main card, right?
Absolutely.
Olenek and Jared Vandera. Another banger. Not bad good. Mackenzie Dern, Tisha Torres. That's an interesting one. I don't know where you're at in terms of your knowledge of they two. Mackenzie Dern's fantastic high-level jiu-jitsu player. Tisha Torres, background in wrestling. She's I don't know, a tough little lady. Does that sound derogatory? Tough cookie's probably worse, isn't it? She's tough. Let's just go with that. She's tough. She's also very small. So that's, well, I was going to say that's going to be a grappling affair, but sometimes that's when they turn into scraps. So I don't know how that one goes, if I'm being honest. If it hits the deck, I'd take Mackenzie Dern all day. But aye, it'll be interesting nonetheless. Right, so then the three big fights that we're all really looking forward to, I'd imagine. Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev is a fantastic fight. If Chimaev can go through Burns the way he's went through his past opponents, that man is next in line for a title shot. So very, very interested to see what happens here. if there's anybody in that division that's currently capable of giving Kamaru Usman a run for his money, it is Chimaev. So very, very interested to see what happens there. Gilbert Burns is no joke, man. He's really good in all areas. He's a great striker. He's high level jiu-jitsu player. Wrestling, probably not so much, but like he's good off his back. So there's a danger there for Chimaev if he's going to try and use his wrestling, take him down a lot. So very interested to see how that plays out. Stop me, by the way, if you want to go into anything here.
No, you fly on me, don't you worry.
Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, grudge match, gotta love it. Bit of drama.
A pro wrestling drama.
Yep.
Between two sides.
So I mean, it's Aljamain, I bastard, that was an illegal Neil Sterling versus Petra. What are you talking about? Yeah, and it like their attitudes to what happened are just, they were interesting to see how it's all played out. Very little remorse for Peter Yan and showboating for losing via for winning via disqualification, I guess, for Sterling.
It's definitely you've got two heels.
Aye.
Peter Putin told me today, yeah.
Jesus Christ. One knee for Russia.
Jesus.
One step for all Russian kind.
Bravo. Putin told me today.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. My bad.
Oh, fuck. Oh, that's quality.
Still should be a really good fight.
I'm expecting it to be a good fight. I'm fully expecting Peter Yan to win, but it should be a good fight.
Probably.
However, he could come in overconfident. He might overlook Sterling because he handled him in the first one. But he might also just come in with a point to prove, and he might beat his ass down, for lack of a better set of words. Main event, Alexander Volkanovski, tanky man. Even though he's maybe vertically challenged, he's an absolute unit. Chan Sung Jung, the Korean zombie, man, what Mel needs said. That is going to be
Absolutely.
a corker.
I mean, how much did we enjoy that fight before we Volkanovski? Like,
Ortega one.
should we?
Brian Ortega.
I mean, we all watched that together. Like, it was what a contest.
That's what we're in for. Like, Chan Sung Jung is basically a very similar fighter to Brian Ortega. Both very good on the ground. Both good striking, both tough as nails, and they fight like zombies, man. They just keep coming, you can't kill them. The difference between them is that Brian Ortega, he heavily favours boxing when it comes to his striking, and with his style of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he does a lot off his back. Chan Sung Jung, more a kickboxer than a boxer, and his sort of grappling style is more kind of aggressive and is a lot more top game. He was the first guy to get a twister submission in the UFC. There's a bit of trivia for you. So very interesting fight. Both guys knockout power, both guys cardio for days, both guys really good no matter where the fight goes. That's going to be, I can see this being up there for fight of the year, 100%, man. Yep, yep. That is a good card. It really is. Really is a good card. So, before we close the door on the episode, Harvey, if you will, it's time for a highlight.
Two highlights.
Two?
I'm
positively spoiled.
Right. Yeah, one's an actual highlight, though. What? I want you to watch this. You probably haven't seen this boy fight before. Right. But the other one I wanted to say was I just reading something the other day about Colby Covington.
Right.
He said he gets death threats daily.
Not surprised.
stemming back to when he changed his persona, if you would say, and back in 2019, after that fight with Damian Maia. He said from then,
Brazil.
after the fight.
The
So he said after that is when he started getting death threats, and then just the way he's been acting ever since. But I wanted just to highlight that, yes, he acts like an absolute dick at times. However, it doesn't give anybody the right to send him death threats for being a dick and being in the spotlight. You know what I mean? He says this and that, but he's not really hurting anybody, is he?
It's the whole thing about freedom of speech and that, like, you know, most people would argue that we should be able to say whatever we want, but most people would also argue that there's a line, and if you go over it,
there's
you
a
should
line.
be prepared for the consequences. You can't have it both ways. Either you can say whatever you want and get away with it, or you can't. You know what I mean?
No, but I wouldn't go to the extreme where you can say anything you want, you know what I mean? But you should be able to speak freely with it. Having death threats, like, you know what I mean?
just wish humans would evolve past the point of words having the meaning of the day.
So much meaning, like
so many people go through mental health struggles, you know, depression, and potentially take their life because of things that people say. You know what I mean? It's just words, but they hurt so much at times.
They hurt so much, yeah. Yeah, they hurt a lot, man. I mean, Will Smith was hurt the other day, wasn't he? So
Probably best
what's hurt him?
There was no winners in that situation.
No, there wasn't. As you can see with the fallout of that, Will Smith is not in a very good place right now. But it's terrible to see that he's getting death threats and stuff just for these views or these words that he's saying. Like, it's not nice to see. I mean, he's taking it on the chin though.
No.
He says I get death threats daily. I'm not afraid to die. So I've got a big nutsack.
I honestly can't stand him. I really can't.
No,
I mean,
my thing, I can't stand him either. But I don't think he should be getting.
No, I shouldn't. I agree with you.
Death threats.
There's no need for him getting death threats.
So my highlight is, if it doesn't matter how much you dislike somebody, if they're just speaking words, don't be sending them death threats.
However, the flip side of the argument, I mean, I'm with you there. Please, if you're listening to this and you're somebody that sent death threats, retract them, stop it, no more. However, there is a flip side to the argument. As much as there's no need to send him death threats, there was no need for him to go after a bloody nation of people that have got nothing to do with the fight that he's in. You know what I mean?
Well, there is that as well, yeah.
Like,
aye.
Like, he has to just kind of hold his hands up and be like, well, I fucked up, so now I need to live with this. So,
yes.
Such is life. Sure.
Aye.
What's your next one?
So, the next one, if you just jump onto YouTube. Aye. And then just type it, you just put the chin on this man, and it should come up. Honestly, it's a one championship video.
Oh, all right,
okay?
so it's like chin isn't been able to take a punch. It's no one.
Aye,
right, okay.
The chin on this
so
man.
The highlight was that somebody had his chin or something. Sorry, right, the chin.
No.
This man.
Aye, type that in, and then you should see it's one championship. The emoji. What have you seen? Oh God, Michael said. But you
last thing that's popped up is
an upside down face.
The chin man. It's somebody upside down with a couple of googly eyes in their chin.
Right, okay.
So
it's Chan.
I can't done it.
Aye. No. All right. So scrap that. Just put Chan Rothana. So CHAN, and then space ROTHANA, and then versus Gustavo Ballart BALART. Was madness.
Ready?
Right, hold on. Right, so just to reiterate, it is the chin on this man Chan Rothana versus Gustavo Ballart was madness. Video from One Championship.
Now, as soon as this starts, you'll see why I wanted to share this.
Okay. Right, okay.
So,
countdown in
whenever
3,
you're ready.
a 2, a 1. A go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Jesus. My first thought is he reminds me of John Silver from AEW. He is a tiny block-shaped man. How is he surviving?
So, we've got a guy that looks to be about 5 foot tall. I'm assuming this is Chan.
He is.
Rothana, is it?
No,
That's
Ballard.
That's Gustavo. So Gustavo Ballard is 4'11".
Jesus, right. He's using the old just take it in the chin and hope for the best defence.
I think he's actually the shortest MMA in this world.
I don't think I've ever seen an MMA fighter that short.
Well,
his head's the same size as his body.
What weight class are they fighting at?
They fight in that would have been
Powerbomb. Come on.
Is he going to bomb him?
Hey!
Oh my goodness.
Good effort.
Strawweight.
Oh, shit, man.
Did he realise there was a male strawweight division?
So,
this is
most organisations don't have a strawweight division for the men. So, strawweight's £115.
Mm-hmm.
That's
106 to 115.
I don't think I've been £115 since I was 12. Wow, man. I mean, he can take some punishment, man.
It's a hair over 8 stone for anybody in all money.
So
it's just over 8 stone.
So that's your weight class 8 stone, 8 stone guys. Literally half the size of me, weight wise.
Ditto. Well, probably not literally, but a bit less than half. But I mean, same difference.
Aye. It's quite funny. Look at the size difference between them.
You wouldn't think they were in the same division.
No.
But obviously the Rothana's much leaner. Although he's considerably taller, but he's a lot leaner.
He's much taller. He's got about 6 inches on him.
Gustavo, he just keeps going, man. That's a tough wee man.
Literally the standard RX weight in CrossFit classes. They are RX weight fighters. 50 kilo fighters. They're RX guys.
What does that mean in English? That's like the standard weight of a bar.
So recommended exercise weight when you're doing like a class.
Right.
50 kilogram bar.
So if you're doing cleans or something?
Like if you're doing cleans as part of a CrossFit workout, it would be like bar and 2 yellow plates.
Right.
That's how much they weigh. A bar and 2 yellow plates. 2 15s in a bar.
A bar and 2 yellow plates?
Aye. Your yellow plates are 15 kilograms, so they're...
All right.
I know, we're all talking in different versions of standards here, my man. I mean, this is... I've got
all with the old CrossFit batter.
I know. Did I tell you I go to CrossFit? The first rule of CrossFit is to tell people you go to CrossFit. That is absolutely the first rule of CrossFit. The reverse fight club, as it were. Fair play to the guy. I mean, his work rate is crazy for all he hits.
There you go.
Aye, Chan Rotana quite handily won.
Aye, he won that fight. Aye.
Wow.
That
I was just looking him up. He's got a 60-inch reach.
All right, there you go.
60.
That's ridiculous, man.
60-inch reach. That's funny.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because usually, quickly for anybody that doesn't know, generally speaking, combat sports, your reach is measured by your wingspan. You stretch out, and it's basically your longest finger to the tip of your longest finger to the tip of your longest finger. Generally speaking, your reach will be slightly more or slightly less than your height. Right? 60 inches is 5 foot. It's just a thing that I know for reasons. Right? So the guy's 4'11". It's not that surprising when you think about it logically. However, when you Paul's trying to do some.
When you think about it in fighting terms,
but when you think about it in fighting terms, most male fighters have a reach that's somewhere between sort of 66, 67 inches in the low end, up to your biggest guys with the longest reaches. That's kind of in the 80-inch area. So to see a guy that's weighed in at 60 inches for reach, like, that's a real thing.
Aye,
but power to him.
He was actually. He's landing punches there as well. Yeah, takedowns and everything. He's the shortest mixed martial artist.
What's mixed martial arts?
Professional. I don't know. Mixed martial mixed martial artist. Yeah. And he's pretty tough as well. And he's had 4 fights in one championship. He's lost 3, but he won the last one there that he fought in. But that was way back in last year, July. His current record is 9-4, 9 wins, 4 losses in MMA.
Yeah, sweet man.
That's pretty good when you've only got a 60-inch reach.
No, you know, I
just wanted to show you the. No, I just wanted you to see the size difference, man, right. and the.
Now, let it be known, we are in no way height shaming. There's nothing wrong with the guy but me, and he has far out matches. I was going to say outweighs. Okay, right. His heart far outweighs his size. Let's go with that. That's a sense. Tough wee guy. He's got a ton of respect. Anybody that's going to step in a cage and have a fight, mad respect.
Yep. He was a very. He did Greco-Roman. Jesus Christ.
Greco-Roman.
Wrestling. Jesus, right? Greco-Roman. I'm telling you. God. Greco-Roman
as opposed to freestyle.
Aye.
Okay. Which in itself is interesting. Because Greco, it's a lot of upper body locks. You don't shoot in for doubles and stuff. So, I mean, you would think that would being smaller, you'd want to do freestyle and shoot in for the legs. Because oftentimes you have taller opponents. So, interesting choice.
True.
Anywho, thank you for that, Harvey. That was utterly random, as always.
Yeah. You know me.
If you have been, thank you for listening. We love and adore all our listeners. The support's amazing. Recently, obviously, surpassed 100. Well, this is the 101st episode of the podcast, which is it's epic that we've had the support to keep going. So let's keep it going. As always, check out the website, www.themidweekmashedtattie.com. Tons of information on there. You get all the links to the episodes and all the socials, etc. It's all there. That's basically the hub. So if you want to know anything, that's the place to go. And if you do anything for us, share the podcast, please and thank you. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Right. So, I have been Mick, they have been Harvey and Paul. This has been Combat Spuds. I thank you. A good night. God bless. See you next week.
Goodbye, driver.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.